Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Tea Time. My name is Michelle, and if y'all don't already know, I am the founder slash CEO of Little Dagger Aesthetics. My pronouns are she, they, and today we are going to be discussing dating life, including stories on best and worst dates, which I am really excited to hear from everyone. Just a side note, there may be a buzzer that's gonna go off while this episode is being recorded. I'll try to put a warning, but I'm currently waiting on an Uber Eats order because I'm having a birthday celebration tonight, and this podcast is literally called Unfiltered because it is about being real, and sometimes in life you gotta do things and take breaks in the middle to get your alcohol because you forgot to do it earlier because life is hectic. So, without further ado, let's introduce ourselves and say your favorite alcoholic drink.
Hi, my name is Clara. My pronouns are she, they. My favorite alcoholic drink. I'd say my go-to are like Moscow Mules. Those are great.
Ooh.
My name's Thiemo, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm just gonna go and fit right into the stereotype and go for a vodka martini, shaken not stirred.
I love it. I think I always am between a vodka cran or just a simple gin and tonic. But I think it depends on my mood. I'm like a little more a vodka girl usually. All right. Well, let's jump right into it. The first question is, what is your current dating or love life situation? What do you think of it? You don't have to go super into detail, but just like a general look around.
Sure. So currently, I'm poly. I am seeing my girlfriend, who is wonderful. We've been going out for maybe, it's been 4 months now. And so that's like a serious romantic relationship. And then I have a couple of things, like people that I'm seeing on the side, in a less serious sense. And that's about it.
That's fair. And are you enjoying it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I am in the longest relationship that I've ever been in. We are going on about 2 years soon, and weirdly enough, I am enjoying it.
I am on the complete opposite end of both of you there, and I am single Pringle. But having a nice time with it, to be honest. I'm just not worrying about that side of things and being the tired cliche perhaps of just focusing on me and embracing all of that stuff and getting to know myself a lot better in the process and just seeing whether all that goes and not putting any pressure on myself for that one.
Yeah, that's completely fair. All right. The next question is, do you prefer being in a relationship or remaining single?
I fit the unfortunate lesbian stereotype of just U-hauling with everyone that I meet. So yeah, I prefer being in a relationship most of the time. I think like since high school I've been single for a total of like 6 months maybe. Yeah. But I mean,
Damn.
like, yeah, I just prefer being in a relationship or like being involved with someone, you know?
And so you like what
That's
you like.
totally fair.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna say currently I prefer being in my current relationship. I would not give it up for the world, but I do tend to be kind of on the bi girl fuck boy stereotype of just liking to be single. Some days I do miss it, and I'm sure everyone in a long-term situation can relate. You wouldn't give up your relationship for the world, but there are moments where you kind of miss being a little hoe. I liked being that person where I could go to a bar and talk to like 10 people and choose who I wanted to take home. And I think, you know, there's a slightly, for lack of a better word, immature side to me where I still kind of want to do that. But I am learning to very much appreciate what I have, and like this relationship is better than anything I've ever had before. So, you know, I'm not gonna give it up just to hoe around again.
Just before I address my bit, going to a bar, chatting to 10 people and deciding who to take home. Confident much. Ballsy. But, yeah, I'd have to agree with you a bit there on, it very much depends on the relationships that you're in, whether or not you prefer that or prefer it being single, I think. So, I mean, I think I would prefer to be in a relationship on some levels, but it would have to be with the right person. You know, not just for the sake of it, in my opinion. So I'm quite happy with how things are at the moment. And obviously, if someone comes along, then I'm not going to shoo them away with a broom. But I'm kind of, again, I want to make sure I've been around the block a couple of times at this point now, so it's doing it for the right reasons, I think, and then you'll be happy regardless of whether you're in a relationship or single.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Always gotta do things right.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you got no regrets or a very minimal amount of regrets, because I think it's very unrealistic to say like live your life without regrets, because you're always gonna have like a teeny mistake, you know, here or there, and eventually you can get rid of the regret by getting closure. But like, I think it's impossible to live without any regrets.
And if you don't have any regrets, then you probably not tried a few things that maybe you should have, because you're not going to be successful at everything. So you're going to have regrets at some point, and it means that you've at least given something a go, even if it's gone terribly.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
All right. The next question is, would you ever go on a blind date?
Yeah, I feel like that would be fun. I don't know. I feel like myself from like 2 years ago would have been absolutely horrified to go on a blind date, but now I just like going into that with like without any expectations and just like getting to know a person. That'd be fun as fuck.
That's fair. Honestly, I feel kind of similar, but for a different reason, which is like, I always thought, you know, like in movies or stuff, like they'll show those scenes of like people going on blind dates and they walk in and they see the person and they're like, ew, and then they walk out. Like, I have had that fear before where I'm like, what if someone walks in and they just like go back and then they tell my friend, oh, like, I'm sorry, but like your friend's ugly, so I don't want to like talk to them. or like if they start talking to me and like I'm a very loud person, like everyone knows that within 30 seconds of meeting me. So I just feel like I would feel terrible if the person like sat down with me and then 30 seconds in they were like, you know what, like this is not working, and then they left. Like I would feel so bad. I'd be like, oh my god, like what's wrong with me? But eventually I got to a point where I was like I realized that people like that are not really worth your time. Like, I understand that not everyone is going to get along or not everyone is going to like everyone, but like if someone can't handle how loud I am as a person, it's like if they were rude about it, first of all, definitely not worth my time. And if they were nice about it, but they were just like, this is really intimidating, I'm sorry, I can't like deal with like you being super loud, like I'm really introverted or etc. It's just like, oh, okay, like might as well not waste either of our time, you know? Mm-hmm. Like it's not like any of our loss. It's just like, oh, okay, we're not that compatible. I might even be like, hey, like we can try and be friends though, but like, yeah. So like, I think I would go now. I just like, I worry about the other party when it comes to someone meeting me for the first time, because I'm like, I would like to think that I'm pretty open-minded, but I've definitely met people where they're just like, they talk to me for 5 minutes and they're just like, yeah, I think my life was better without talking to you. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have that worry. I tend to be like a pretty socially submissive kind of person, I guess. And like, if someone will start talking about something they're interested in, I'll just let them talk.
That's fair.
I suppose as well as, like you were saying before, if they don't like you in the first 30 seconds for whatever reason, you could easily take that as a negative thing. It's like, what the hell have I done? I've been here 30 seconds. But at the same time, you could also just use that, like you say as well. They've not wasted your time, then they've been very efficient in deciding for whatever reason they're not interested. And you're like, well, at least we know that. I've not had my time wasted, and I can just move on and go on the next blind date and hope we get to a minute this time instead of 30 seconds. But I think as well, going off the question, I don't think I've been on a purely blind date, semi-blind maybe, in terms of meeting people and then there being lots of alcohol involved at whatever party or whatever it was, and then going on a date with them and trying to remember desperately anything about them. So it's essentially a blind date. But I'd do that because, again, why not? Bit of fun. And what's the worst that can happen? They'd look at you and after 30 seconds and then just leave, and then you're just there at the bar, and then maybe you meet someone else, and that's essentially a blind date again. So you got nothing to lose. So I want to have a bit of fun with it.
That is very fair. I can definitely see you, Thiemo, if you went on a blind date, but it wouldn't be that, like, they left. It would be like, you're like, this is not working for me. And then you would leave, and then you would dead ass go to the bar that's, like, right beside your table.
You know me too well.
All right. The next question is, what is something someone could do on a date that would make you immediately leave? I'm going to say for this one, name like the top 3 things that would make you be like, what the fuck, and then just leave. And also I would like to put in a little warning here. My order is arriving now, so there might be a little buzzer that's going to go off. And also, Clara, take your time with this answer. And Thiemo, if you want to go after Clara for this question, please do.
Sure.
Sure. So, that's a tough, like, top 3. I'd say, like, any sort of intolerance, first of all, is a huge red flag. So, like, I'm trans. If they're, like, outwardly not okay with that, I'm out the door. Not a second question. 2 and 3, that would be a bit harder. Let's see.
Just noticed that you're saying, like, serious things, and I'm just thinking of, like, also red flags, but more comedic red flags. And I'm having
like if they're wearing Doc Martens or something.
Now. Yeah, like if they come in wearing a Nazi uniform, I'm feeling like that's maybe not my thing, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that would be a pretty easy red flag. Yeah, one thing that I think is like slightly more superficial is if we are in their car or like go to their place or something and it's dirty and it's clear that they don't clean very often, that's like sort of a red flag for me, because I am a very like neat freak kind of person, and so I don't think I would continue on that. But like again, I wouldn't like leave right away, I guess.
I'm just thinking.
I'm sort of blanking on things right now.
No, again, I'm desperately trying to think of something, and then my mind goes to silly areas. So I'm just trying to think there. But I think
we can take silly answers.
Don't open that gate just yet. You'll regret doing that. We'll be here all night. But I'm thinking like when you're having, because I mean, if you're on I don't know if we're still talking about a blind date, or a first date or something near the beginning. I think, because if you're like 10 dates in or a year into a relationship or something, you should probably have figured this stuff out by then. But if like you're getting to know each other over drink, dinner, whatever, and they've asked a question to try and get you to find out a bit more about you, and then they just show absolutely no interest, or they're just kind of giving like the yeah, okay, interesting kind of one-word non-committal answers. I feel like that's kind of that to me, that seems a bit of a red flag, because you're like, well, you came here and you asked the question, you could at least listen. and at least be polite about it, and then at the end say, yeah, not for me or whatever. But I feel like there's just basic manners there, maybe. You're both there for the one reason, you know?
For sure, yeah. I mean, like, if neither of you is interested in the other person, then why are you even there, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's even worse when one of you, in this case, say us, would be the one to take the interest, and at least we don't know anything about this person yet, so at least listen to them, and okay, maybe we don't like what they say, and they start going on about this, how dirty their apartment is in your instance, and you're like, okay, no, this is not going to work. But at least you listened and you found out about it, and if they're just not even entertaining that option for you, then it's like, well, why should I bother staying here? I'll just go to the bar.
For sure. Like, I've always said, like, the sexiest thing that a person can do is talk passionately about something that they feel strongly about. And so, like, if I'm on a date with someone, I'm talking passionately about something that I care about, and they're just sort of just passive and not really listening. That's like, no, that's a big no.
Great. What else would be I think as well, I think maybe jumping off that bit a little bit in terms of maybe not behavior but attitude, but say if you're out in public somewhere where you're first meeting them, because chances are you haven't invited them round to your house for a first date. Well, maybe you do, but that's your business. But how they treat, like, other people around you, like the staff at the bar or the restaurant or whatever, if they're being very much, what's the word? I'm not entitled, but there's that kind of vibe where it's like, oh, you're here to do a job and you should do everything I say, kind of thing, and they're kind of being very fussy about it. I can't think of the word, but I'm hoping you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. If they're being rude to other people while you're on the date, that's just like, no thank you.
It's just again, it feels like if that's how you're going about treating those people, then it's like, well, do I again have what kind of it's very telling very quickly on what the kind of person they are, because again, it doesn't cost anything to just be nice and be polite. Absolutely. Even when you're not feeling it, it's just basic stuff that they're there to do a job, but you don't have to be a dick about it,
So my buzzer did not go off because the guy somehow got into the building and knocked on my door instead. Little sus, but okay. Did we reach our 3 for both of you?
I wasn't really counting. I think we sort of came up with 3 collectively.
That is fair. Okay, tell me your most, like, superficial one.
Superficial one?
Yeah.
Okay, this is gonna make me sound like a total dick. But if I'm going on a date with a girl and she's wearing a lot of heavy makeup, I tend to, like, I tend to get a bit icky with that. And, like, it's not a deal breaker. I won't leave, but I don't know. That's just not my thing, I guess.
That is pretty fair, though. Like, okay, here's the thing. I'm very much like, obviously, if you're doing anything in your life, anything that you want to do, and you're not hurting anyone, like, do you.
Oh, but absolutely, yeah.
There are certain, like, preferences and things that, like, I just wouldn't understand if someone did it. Like, I don't remember the name of this person. It's probably better that I don't say it in case, like, this podcast ever gets big. But, like, there's this one TikToker or, like Instagram person that is a makeup artist, but she's, like, very, very well known for using, like, what looks like half a bottle of foundation per look on her account. And when I see it, I'm like, oh, like, at first I saw the videos and I was like, the finished product doesn't look cakey. Like, that's so cool that you can use that much makeup and not have it look cakey, because I put, like, a brush on and I look, like, terrible. So I kind of, like, was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then she did other videos that I watched and I realized it's just, like, she put a filter over to make it look less cakey and more like airbrushed smooth. And you could tell when she crinkled her nose at the end, like, you could see all the tiny little creases in her face because the makeup was so packed on. And I was like, again, you do you. You're not hurting anybody, except maybe like if it's makeup from a bad company, like child labor, high key. But I was like, you know, if someone showed up to a first date with that much makeup on, I would be so confused. I don't know if I would like immediately leave, but I would be confused and I'd be like, why though? Like, this is weird to just stare at someone that I can see their pores are suffering. Like, but yeah, no, I get the makeup one.
It's also just like a preference thing. Like I don't tend to go for very high femme women, and that's just a preference. I know some people do, and that's great. Just not for me.
Yeah. Thiemo, what is your most superficial reason that you would leave?
This is a minefield if ever there was one. Let me think a second.
We are a no judgment zone, so it's all good.
No, it's just because, again, like Clara was saying, it's personal preference. So you're just trying to think like what one thing maybe not for you is. Oh, I'm trying to think what maybe counts as superficial there. But it looks like you say the makeup one's a good point. But again, it's kind of there could be a whole host of reasons for that. But I totally get why that would be an issue as well. Especially as you're maybe thinking, oh, what are you hiding under there? I don't know. I guess just with the for me, personal preference maybe just the more what's the word? Fake items attached to the body. I guess I'm trying to think of like there isn't a way of saying that sounds good.
Accessories?
But, say again.
Accessories?
No, as in physically enhanced, so like Botox, lipo, whatever, that kind of side of things. Because again, I just feel like I can probably get on with that person because, let's face it, I get on with most people and I'm just annoying like that. But I don't feel like there would be. I just feel like there'd always be something there that I'm thinking, there's. I always just wonder why people do that in the first place because I totally get why they might want to do a little bit here and there, but if it's like you can tell that there's been a dramatic change on that one, then I think personally for me that's kind of a no-no because I feel like I don't know, there's just a gut instinct thing there. It's hard to explain.
I honestly think that is completely fair. I have, I've thought about getting lip fillers before. I've thought about getting like slight liposuction for my thighs. Like there's always little things that you're going to want to change about yourself until you fully love yourself and your body, right? But I feel like with those little adjustments, like if let's say the girl that you were going out with had like slight lip fillers, maybe like, a breast enhancement, like it would be fine, but Botox and plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery it can be addictive. So like you wouldn't want to go out with someone that like can't move their face anymore because they've gotten addicted.
And it's one of those things, like you say, you've got these small things, like you say, you could have like a little nip tuck here or there or whatever, and that'd be fine. But I know this isn't like the whole point of it because obviously you've got to be happy with and love yourself and all of that. But if you're the other person in that relationship, chances are that if they're serious and whatever, they're going to love those imperfections of you anyway. So it's kind of, there's no need to do that if you're comfortable with it, but you're thinking that there's an external reason for doing it, and you keep doing it because of that, and then the person that you're with is kind of like, well, I don't understand why you're doing it, because surely as long as you two, or however many people are in the relationship, are all happy with it, then it just seems, I don't understand it from that point of view, but maybe I'm not educated enough on that one.
I mean, that's fair. Okay, I think that y'all might have mentioned these ones, but I feel like my three are like, one, definitely, I heard y'all say this, how they treat the people. So, like, if we're in a restaurant, I would not want to be with someone that would treat their waiter or waitress or, like, any one of the staff badly, especially because I work at the restaurant industry. if I ever go on a
It'd be a
date
big
with
no-no
someone,
for you.
I'm gonna be like, oh my god, like, you cannot be rude at all. Like, I don't care what the situation is. We can be waiting 30 minutes for each, like, appetizer to come out. Like, if it's busy, I will let that slide because I work in a restaurant and I know that, like, kitchen can make mistakes, servers can write things in wrong, you can bring the food to the wrong table. Like, so many things are happening all at once. You have 30,000 different things in your brain. If my person is rude to, like, any customer service person, any restaurant person, any whatever, I will literally be like, what the fuck? Like, I will be so tempted to punch them.
See, at that point, I would arrange for like the date ahead of time, go to the restaurant, find out who's on shift that day, pay the staff a little extra to play along with me, treat them a little bit badly in front of you to see what your reaction would be, and then unveil the trick at the end.
I would literally be fuming. I would, like, you would literally be like, haha, it was all a prank. And I'd be like, oh my god. I would be like, I need to go home and decompress.
It's funny though.
My second one would be, like, I never had a date say this to me, but I had a friend tell me before that they did not like dogs.
That is such an obvious one. Why did I not think of that? That is definitely not.
I don't trust people that, one, don't like dogs, or if they say they don't like pets / animals in general. I'm just like, why though? Like, why would you not like the creatures that we share the earth with, that we are literally taking habitats from? I like them better than humans, so you better do. I think the third one might be the most superficial, but I think it kind of makes sense, is the way that someone is dressed, which is like, one, I don't think that there's any such thing as showing too much skin as long as it is appropriate to the situation. And that's where this whole thing stems from, is like, if I invite someone to like an art gallery for our first date and they show up in like a bikini, I'm gonna be like, something's a little wrong here. I don't know what's happening.
I did that one time.
Or like, if I'm like, oh, like, let's go to like a sports game and they show up in like a long gown, I'm gonna be like, what is happening? But
I
like,
did that one time.
but yeah, like, just like, as long as it's appropriate to the situation, wear whatever you want. I can be a little on guard if like I invite someone to, like, let's say go clubbing and they show up like dressed pretty conservatively or like reserved, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm like, oh, like, why are you like not showing skin? You know, obviously wear whatever you want. But I've had too many people in my life that have dressed more conservatively than me, and they've gotten mad at me or annoyed with me or even told me they were disgusted by the way that I dress. So like, I tend now to look for people that kind of dress like I do so that we won't judge each other. And I'm sure that there are people out there that dress like, you know, conservatively and cover up and all that, because, you know, more power to the people that dress modestly. I can't speak. But 9 out of 10 times, the people that are around me that have worn like long dresses when I'm out here in a miniskirt have been like, ew, you look like a slut. And I'm like, I thought we were friends.
I dressed like that because it's Canada and it's -25 and I'm not showing any skin.
Okay, but if you're going clubbing in the middle of the winter, I think there's a larger issue here.
Hey, don't knock.
Is this where we tell Mishi that this whole podcast is actually an intervention?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, hoes don't get cold, all right? And all right, let's go to the next question, and it is, what was the best first date you've ever had? I'm gonna put it, like, you can say your first date or just date in general, because we do have like follow-ups for like the worst ones. So what's like the best first or any date that you've been on?
I haven't been on any like truly remarkable first dates. Yeah. Can you give me a minute to think about like one that I've been on that wasn't a first date?
Absolutely. I do have one for a first date. Um, so I was like, I was almost fully out at this time. This was like maybe me coming to Ottawa. So first year, little baby of the university. I was learning how to be comfortable with women in public because even though I knew I was bi and I partially came out to like my best friends and stuff, I had never let myself actually date women because I was like, oh my God, like what if I'm just trying to be edgy? What if I'm just this? What if I, the internal homophobia was peeking through. So I went on a dating app. I talked to this girl. Her name was Sylvia. So shout out to Sylvia if you ever hear this. And this was the first time that I realized that some men do absolutely nothing. Some men do absolute shit, and they expect you to be their girlfriend or to marry them or to like commit to them after doing fuck all. Because before this, all my first dates were dinner and a movie. And when I say dinner and a movie, I mean they chose the movie. I didn't have an opinion. And then they took me to like McDonald's. Okay. So
I'm gonna have to change my story now.
I thought, oh, so romantic. And then I went out with a girl for the first time, and this girl literally took me, first of all, to a restaurant where they did tasting menus, offered to pick up the bill, which I kind of fought for a bit, but like, she said you can get the next one, which I was like, oh, okay. She literally brought me flowers, and I had told her ahead of time that I don't understand why people would buy me flowers because they'll just die. So she got me all fake flowers, and you could detach the petals to put into like a jar that came with them, and they would just like float around in this kind of like glittery goop. I don't know what it was, but it looked fucking magical. She got me a first date present, which was a necklace that looked pretty
No wonder blokes are fucked on first dates.
The restaurant was amazing. After the food and the gifts, we went for a walk to the Ottawa Locks as the sun was setting, and then she put down a blanket so we could hang out and talk while looking at the sunset. Like, I swear I was in love. I was in love already. It was the first date, and I was like, I am going to marry this girl. And then she moved away after our third date, but that's a different story. But, like, honestly, best first date I've ever been on. Oh my God.
Any of our listeners
Unrelated
wondering, this
question,
is why
do you still have her
lesbians
details? I think Clara and I thought the same thing there.
Girls are amazing. Just like, we love femmes.
I'm trying to decide between two at the moment because one of which I think I'm going to have to go with that one actually just for the purpose of getting one back at Mishy here slightly. Because she was in this story and I was quite yeah you know where I'm going with this already. Because like you say, it's you decided the venue, I think, for when we briefly went out. And, I mean, granted, I was happy to go with the flow. I'm very much on board with that. I mean, I am very much up for making the effort when I know it, but kind of like, you were in control. I was like, I will go with that. Let's see what happens. Very nice place that I didn't know existed, to be perfectly honest. So great food, great alcohol, from what I recall. And again, just like we were saying earlier, there were none of these red flags where either one of us were treating the staff like shit, and we're both listening to what the other one had to say, and all this kind of nice stuff that you wish was common sense for everyone, but sadly isn't. So it's just reassuring when it's there. And Mishy saying about was it Sylvia just now, the picking up the bill there. I'm very traditional in that I always think that the bloke should pay, at least on the first date. After that you can decide, but I'm just very much like that. So you can be you can judge here, Clara, how shocked and surprised I was when I went to the bathroom and came back to find Mishy had already paid for everything.
Yeah,
and
that's
I'd
a
just
move
been
that
very
I
sneaky
enjoy.
with it. But I would say that's probably one of the better ones. I'm trying to think. I've not had any like terrible ones, which is why I'm going to have to really rack my brain for the next question. But I'd say that was for a first date. I think that was pretty good. I'll put that up there, and not just to stroke Mishy's ego because she's going to go all cutesy now.
I miss you, Thiemo. Come back to Ottawa.
You have a boyfriend.
It's okay. He knows that there's always a special place in my heart. That's always like, that's one British boy that I talk to all the time and rant about, and not rant about, rant to. I literally...
What have I been doing? I'm in the doghouse now.
And like, okay, to be fair, I always like, so I fight for the bill for two reasons. One, I'd like to pay. Two is that I'm a pretty forward person. So I am usually the one that asks out the other person. And I always think if you did the asking, you should pay because like it was your idea. And to be fair, when we were going to go out, you technically made the first move. When we first met, you made the first move, and then I picked it up.
Didn't let me pay?
Like, no. I mean, like then I picked up on it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this boy out for an amazing night, and I had to pull out all the stops.
Well, you did, and you succeeded. So, I mean, it was no blanket with sunset, but we put the down to it being January or February time, so that's fair enough. I'll let you off on that one.
So I thought of mine. So this was, it must have been like 4 years ago. I had just come out as trans, and so like I'd never been on a date with a person as Clara. And so that was like terrifying. And so I'd met this guy on a dating app, and we decided we were going to go for a drive. Like there's this ice cream place that I used to go when I was a kid that I was going to bring him to, and we go hiking, and it was going to be awesome. And so we do all that, and then it's going into the evening, and we're just sort of losing track of time, just talking, and like we went for a long drive along the highway in Gatineau Park, and was looking at all the beautiful like trees and all that. And then it gets to the evening, and this was on Canada Day, like 3 or 4 years ago. And so I have a friend who owns a campground in Rockland, and so he was doing like a fireworks show for Canada Day. And so we pulled up in our car and just watched that, and like pulled out a blanket under the stars and watched the fireworks.
What is it with all these blankets? And what have I been doing wrong? Christ.
It was pretty amazing. That was definitely my best first date.
Note to self for next time. Blankets.
Bring a blanket, yeah. Can never be worsened by the presence of a blanket.
Cold, we got a blanket. Got a sunset, got a blanket. Got a sunrise, still got a blanket.
Absolutely. We're all just like, I don't know, we're in too much city and all that. Like nobody ever looks at the sky anymore. So now it's just like you pull out a blanket and you look at the sky and you're golden.
I miss that. Like I grew up in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. And so I was like, as a kid, I was always looking up at the sky, and I mean, I'm in physics. I'm a nerd. I would look up at the stars and be like, whoa, shit, there's stuff up there. And I like when I moved to the city, that was one of the biggest things that I noticed was that I look up at the sky and I don't see all the stars anymore, and it was so sad.
Yeah,
I'm just taking note of the official scientific term there of there's shit up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. That's no, it's literally like you get to the city and you don't realize how much light pollution there is until you're like, oh, I want to go stargazing, or like you're on a balcony and you look up and you're like, why is the sky empty, and everyone's like, it's not. It's just that there's so much light pollution down here that you can't see anything, and it's like, wait, what? Like, it's mind blowing when you first experience it. It's crazy.
Yeah. See, my question for Clara now is that if you went on a date and because you'd mentioned that you grew up in the countryside and you could see the stars and everything, you're in the city at this point on this date, and you know, I'm guessing there would be some prep for whoever you're going on the date with beforehand. Because if you just whipped this out beforehand, then I'd be surprised that he just had that on him. But like, he arranges for you to go like to a planetarium or something, or you have like some kind of projector so you can look at a ceiling for some stars. Would that be like up your alley, or
yeah,
would that be?
Fuck. Yeah. So this guy that brought me on the most amazing first date, a couple of months later, like that relationship lasted like 8 months or so. A couple of months into the relationship, he got me these like glow in the dark stars to put on the ceiling of my bedroom.
Nice.
That was the most romantic gift ever. Yeah.
I'm just checking I'm on the right vibe here because I'm just taking notes while we're doing this.
Yeah, that was definitely a highlight.
All right. So I'm going to combine the next two just because we are going a little close to the time, I think. Not too close, I just have time. But instead of what was the worst first date you've ever had, I'm going to say in general, what was the worst date you ever had? If you remember what number date it was, go ahead and share that. And did you have a date after, or was that the end for this?
So this one is very clear in my mind because it happened a few months ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, fun
You asked the question machine.
So yeah, this was a person that I met on a dating app, and we were talking online for a while, and things were getting like quite hot and heavy while we were talking online, and that was fun. I'm a pretty open person with my sexuality, and so I enjoy when someone's open about that. And this person was very open about like being super gung-ho with like enthusiastic consent, and that's wonderful and great. And then I get to the first date, and we're in her car in like I think it was at the Rito Center parking lot. And then she just like climbs over the gear shifter in the middle and onto me, and I'm like, excuse, like no warning or anything. And then just starts like proceeding to try to do stuff, and I'm like, well, excuse me, hello.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I left that right away. That was not fun. That was a first date that did not have a second one.
I wonder why.
Yeah, and I was very surprised because like they were super open about like enthusiastic consent and everything online when I was talking to them, and then immediately when they get in person, they just fucking jumped on me. I don't know, it was weird. But yeah, that was definitely my worst date.
Oof. Well, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, because that is never fun. Especially when people like talk about consent before everything, you know, they're like, oh yeah, like I understand this, and you know, obviously we're not here to cross each other's boundaries, and we're here to respect each other, and then like they do shit like that, and it's like, ugh.
I think going back to earlier, that's a red flag on a first date.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Oh man. And I'm good. I'm
just
not
fingers
good.
crossed.
I'm glad that there was not a date to follow, because yikes.
Yeah.
Thiemo, go
I'm
ahead.
just crossing my fingers that you weren't going to repeat my story for one of my better dates earlier back to me in the worst date category.
Thiemo, if you want to go ahead of me for this one, please do. I'm just a little distracted at the moment, but yeah. Yeah,
I mean, there's a couple that come to mind. One of which being an awkward one to tell because it was. I'm not sure how far into the relationship it was. It becomes a blur at this point, but I'd say a year at least. I think. that would make sense. Or this, it was either near the beginning. No, it was near the end. Near the end. A year into it, maybe though. So we'll find out. As I say, it's all a blur. But trying to find a bit of time to go out somewhere nice and do something, you know. And there's busy lives and all the rest of it. And so go out somewhere nice for dinner. Go out into town and find someone for that. And everywhere's either really busy or not quite the vibe we're going for. And then we finally find this place that is just absolutely dead. Good menu, but absolutely dead. So we go in there, and it's very obvious from the body language of the staff that they were hoping they could leave early. And then we bloody walked in. So we sat down, and you can tell that they're not happy we're there. I'm feeling awkward because I kind of don't want to be here either because I'm British and awkward like that. I can tell you want to go home, and I want to let you go home, and we can find somewhere else, but I'm also kind of stuck at this point in having to do this because it's a nice thing to do for the girl I was seeing at the time. Again, it's a bitch to be polite sometimes. And it was just like the longest hour of my life, I feel like, at that point. Because you're there, you're ordering. You take ages to try and. I'm trying to be quick on like ordering so the food can get there quick, so we can get out of there quick and go for like a nice walk somewhere. You know, we want to have a nice end of the day and just get some food in the tank, and then off we go. Then the other person's taking ages on deciding what they want, and then there wasn't much chit chat either because again we spent a lot of time together anyway, and it was kind of just. I didn't know if we were just both tired or what, but there was no chemistry whatsoever at that point in time on that date, and it was just the most awkward thing because you could tell the staff were like, this is a terrible first date, and I'm just like, if I tell them we've been together a year, they'll be thinking, Christ, what died in that relationship, and it was just a complete awkward fest, which, again, bringing someone who is English, we do awkward very well, but we don't enjoy it. So that was just a complete mess. That was one of the ones that came to mind at the start there, which fortunately, and not as bad as other ones that I've heard as well, but at the same time it was just, you're meant to have fun on a date, and no part of that was fun.
Yeah. I think, like, honestly, you know, even if you have, like, the majority are good dates and stuff, like, you're completely valid in saying, like, you're supposed to have fun on dates. So even if all of them are good and you're like, oh, this one's not that bad, it still sucks. It's still, you know, you want to have fun, and if it doesn't turn out that way, it's just like one of those things that whenever your mind goes back to it, you're like, that could have been better in, like, any way.
I think as well, going back to, I think something was said earlier about do you prefer to be single or in a relationship, and what a kind of, and then again, worst and best dates. There's been a relationship since then where it hasn't mattered, like there were plans to go out, and then I can't remember why, but it didn't happen, and we stayed in and did something else instead, and it was still like ordered food or whatever, but we made it really nice time and everything, and it's just one of those things where that was an option in this bad date scenario, but it didn't happen because the other person was just determined to go out, and I was just not going to bother fighting at that point. It was like, you know what, it'd just be nice to get out as well, to be honest. So I think that kind of tells you how good the relationship was going at that point, but it's kind of showing that compare and contrast where you're comfortable enough in a relationship to say, okay, yeah, it would have been nice to go out, but we don't need that to still have a nice time and still like get away from reality as such, you know. So you want to be in a relationship with the right person, and then theoretically at least you'll never have a bad date when you're with that person.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too idealistic, but we'll see.
Okay, so bad dates. Unfortunately, I have a shit ton of these. I've told my infamous sushi date story before on this podcast, so I'm going with, because I still think that's like my top absolute worst one. But this one is bad for a different reason. Little TW over here. I won't go into full detail just cause, but basically I had known this guy for like 6 years. I had never really seen him in a romantic sense, but you know, when you're going through trauma, your feelings are everywhere and you get attached to people that you shouldn't get attached to, and then you're like, oh my god, I might be in love, but really you're just like trying to heal. So everyone around me suggested I go out with this guy, and I was like, KK, I probably should, because I kind of do be feeling for him recently. And he was like, yeah, and like he was never the craziest part about all this is that he was never creepy around me before. He was always very respectful.
Keyword there be before.
He was just like a good, solid friend to have around, and that's what's really like annoying me about this whole situation. So basically he's like, yeah, do you want to go out for drinks? Like, we'll go to like a nice restaurant, we'll treat ourselves, all that, blah blah blah. So we went to Johnny Farina, which is like super fucking cool and fancy. We go there, we get 2 bottles of wine, we're vibing, everything's good, and I'm thinking halfway through this date where I'm like, I love this date right now, but because we're such good friends, I like started to realize that I did not have any romantic feelings, and I just liked him as a friend, and I liked his company. So I was like, oh, okay, like whatever, I'll tell him after. Midway through the date, he starts like trying to put his hand on my thigh as we're sitting at this table and like trying to slide it up, and I'm like, excuse me, sir. And I'm like, yeah, take a second, because I actually don't see you like that, and I'm like not down for it. I very much am enjoying this date because we are here as friends, and I like to keep it that way. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Which you would I love if he just kept it there, you know, if he was like, okay, no problem, and then we just like had our date and then we went home. That'd be great. But no, he's like, yeah, no problem. And then after, he's like, do you want to go to this other bar? And I'm like, yeah, sure, because, you know, I love drinks. So we go. We're sitting in a booth, and it's like one of those circle booths, which is like really cute for like actual couples, but we were sitting down. I don't think it's kind of awkward, but it was whatever. And he starts trying to touch me again, and I was like, bro, what the fuck are you on? And he was like, I thought like you meant that like I couldn't touch you at that restaurant because it was really fancy, and like we didn't want to do PDA there. And I was like, no, bro, I literally told you I don't like you like that. Like, don't fucking touch me. And he was like, oh, okay, my bad. And then he continued doing it. And I was like, bro, like, if you think that I won't cause a scene in this restaurant, you are fucking mistaken. Because my dumbass will literally shout, okay? Like, what the fuck? So he's like, okay, whatever.
To be fair, your inside voice is still fairly loud already before you shout.
Exactly. Like, who does he think he's not? Like, what? Okay, so we literally leave. And he's like, okay, I'm going to get us an Uber. Like, I'll drop you off at your house. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't realize, but when he called the Uber to my apartment at that time, which was like a res, and he didn't like make it a stop. He just called the Uber to my place. So when we got to my place, he comes out of the Uber, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, where are you going? And he's like, I'm staying over. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you're going home, buddy. What the fuck? And he's like, no, I'm staying over. Why do you think I called the Uber to your place? And I'm like, no, sir, I'm gonna fucking go now. Like, see you fucking later. So I go up to the res, I like press my fob thing or whatever, and he like ran and like forced the door open as I was trying to close it to like get into the little in between doors section. And he like starts trying to kiss me and shit. And I was like, oh my god, what the fuck? So I pushed him off, and I literally had to like kick this man, like literally put my foot on his fucking stomach, okay, and shove him out of the building and close the door so that it locked and he couldn't get in. And then I had to like call my other friend that like was our mutual friend, and I was like, I have no idea what the fuck just happened, because like I just went on like the date that everyone's trying to set up between me and this guy, and like what the fuck. And she was so shocked too, like everyone was, like I told them, and thank fucking god they believed me, but like they were all shocked. They were like, holy crap, like, we didn't know that he would ever do that. Otherwise, we would never suggested it. Like, we're so sorry. And I was like, it's not your fault. It's his fault. Like, what the fuck? And, like, obviously, friend group dumped his ass, like, whatever, and everybody that needs to know knows. But it was like, what the fuck? What the, like, ugh. Yeah.
I don't know how he made it through life without understanding what the word no meant.
Right? Like...
This is the kind of basic shit I get annoyed with. I'm just like, you can have a lot of issues and stuff, but you shouldn't be having issues over this kind of thing, because it's just so basic. And it's like, he said no, however many times. You should have worked the first time.
It is literally that. Like, there needs to be, like, checkpoints in life. Like, you need a license, okay? That is like, do you understand consent?
License to date.
You have this license to go on dates. If you don't, you get thrown in jail. Like that's literally, that's all.
Well,
all
you
right.
can go on a lot of dates in jail. That's just not the dates you want.
All right. The next question is, what is your stance on one night stands or a friends with benefits situation?
I'm all for them. I have several friends with benefits things going on currently. I'm all for them. The only thing with one night stands is like communicating with the person. Like I think a lot of people think one night stands are just sort of this person that you don't know, and like you fuck them and then that's it, and then you never see them again. But communication is still important, especially in the bedroom, especially when you're doing any sort of sexual stuff. Like, it's important that you communicate with this person. And so like that's the only like caveat that I have to that. But yeah, no, all for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to say exactly. I'd agree with what Clara said there. I don't have anything else on that one. Just again, it's as long as everyone knows what they're getting into, then go for it.
Yeah, and it's important with like friends with benefit stuff to like establish boundaries before you go into stuff. Because if someone develops feelings, you need to know sort of how to deal with that. And like if that's a possibility, going into the future, what that's going to be. So yeah, communication is important in any relationship.
Even if it's just for an evening.
Exactly.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. I used to like prefer one night stands, honestly. Although for me, I would literally define it like before anything happened. I'd be like, if you're gonna come home with me, I need you to leave after. Like, I don't cuddle. I don't have people stay over. I don't like it when people want to be like romantic about it. I am very not into that.
They clock in, they clock out, they fill in the evaluation form, and
yeah. It hurt a lot of people, even though I told them up front. By the end of it, they're out all night, and I was like,
no. Too, like, if someone's gonna tell you like how this situation is gonna work and like what's gonna work for them.
Happened that often. People that I genuinely liked as people, and I knew that if I was like, hey, I'm not feeling it anymore, they wouldn't be offended. They would just be like, oh yeah, we had our fun, and now we're to regular friends, and they're really cool people. And I agree with please communicate, because a certain someone, Alex, was friends with benefits with me for a whole fucking year and didn't communicate anything about feelings. Like, there were a couple of drunk outbursts, but besides that, no. I expressed my feelings twice, and they just were like not really listened to.
What I love about this, Clara, is that you can tell she's not at all annoyed about that.
No, not at all. Totally chill with it.
Yeah, totally chill. Because, it was just, like, so funny when, like, Mans told me, I never want to date you, and then 24 hours later went, actually, can we be in a relationship? Fucking pizza. Anyway, he's grown as a person. He is much better now, and we're all good. We're, like, besties, but, just, like, communicate. Like, just do that.
Yep.
Anyway, So I think I'm going to skip the next question because we kind of did touch on that a bit. And we are at the hour mark. So I'm going to wrap this up by combining the last two. Have you ever tried a dating app? What is the best dating app in your opinion? And like, did you have a good or bad experience that stood out?
I have been all over dating apps for a long while. So yes, tried many of them. I think that when deciding what sort of dating app to use, I think it's important to like think about what you want to get out of it. Because like I wouldn't go to Tinder for a long-term relationship if I'm looking to like date someone seriously. Just like I wouldn't go to Bumble for like one-night stands and hookups and stuff. So I think in terms of best and worst, I don't think they're really like out of the ones that I've tried. I don't think there's a standout best and worst one. And then best and worst experiences on those apps. The worst date that I talked about earlier was from a dating app. Surprise, surprise. But the best date was also first date from a dating app. So I don't know. It's very hit or miss. You don't have much time to get to know people on dating apps, I find. And so like it can be really good and it can also be really bad.
I'm on the flip end of that and having never used a dating app in my life. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. I can see why people do it, but again, I'm just annoyingly traditional in the sense of my dating app is life, and I'll meet those people at some point, and I'll do all right on that one. But again, similar to what Clara was saying there, success and failure rate is probably about the same. So both the best date and the worst date stories from earlier were both from that and weren't from dating apps. So it kind of it can go either way regardless, I think. Again, just to have the communication maybe, but I just go out and end up in these situations and make them up as I go along.
Definitely relatable. I've been on Tinder and Bumble. I think at one point I downloaded Hinge, but I didn't actually make a profile or even use it. Like I think I just had it on my phone and I deleted it. My best friend made either I think it was a Plenty of Fish account or a Christian Mingle. It was so funny. Like it was just like for shits and gigs. But I'm pretty sure some people messaged the account anyway. I personally for my dating style, I think I always preferred Tinder. I think the quality of people were better on Bumble. But Bumble, like Clara was saying, like there's obviously different intentions that people have on different dating apps because certain dating apps get known for certain things. So like Bumble had better people, but they were very relationship-y, and Tinder had like good and bad, but it was very hookup-y, and I just like always use dating apps for hookups instead of like actually dating / relationships. I don't know, just kind of match that better. But yeah. Okay, since we are a little over the hour mark, we'll wrap up there. We could even have like a part 2 of this one day, because obviously there are lots of stories to go through and lots of opinions for various parts of dating because it is very large, long spectrum. But to wrap up, tell me a food that you would like to try on your next date. And it can be literally with anyone. Like, all that matters is the food.
Okay. Kat, if you're listening, take notes. So it has been a long time since I've had this, and I've had it before, and it was very good. So there's this thing that they eat in Scotland. It's called haggis. That's basically a
Ooh.
bunch of ground meat that is cooked
The ooh
inside
is
of a
not
sheep's
necessarily
stomach.
there for that machine does the wrong noise.
But it was really good. I went in and I wasn't expecting much out of it, but it was very good.
That's
And
probably the
so
right attitude to take with haggis, to be fair.
yeah, there you go. So on my next date, cat cough cough, I would like to have some haggis.
Find this Scottish delicacy that I'm sure they'll have plenty of over here.
There you go.
I think for me, I've tried it a couple of times and haven't liked it, but I keep like talking to people, and for some reason they all like it. And I mean, you two probably do as well now, so you'll think I'm weird. But I might as well try sushi again and just see if I like it any more than I did before, which I probably won't, but at least I'll get a dating story out of it, and then I can come back on this podcast and share that with you.
I mean, I'm always going to encourage you to go on your best dating ventures, live your best life. Sadly couldn't cuff, so go find someone better. It's fine. All right. To finish up, are there any socials that y'all want to plug? Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm chill at the moment. I'm all good.
All right, sounds good. Then I will say thank you so much, y'all, for being on this episode. We will definitely have a part 2. And special shout out to Thiemo because you're in a different time zone, and thank you for staying up.
That
I don't know what
explains
time
why
it
it's
is there
dark
for you.
outside. That makes so much sense.
But yeah. Otherwise, thank you to our listeners for listening. Hopefully we do the Spotify thing soon. I've been delaying it because life is terrible and hectic, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. But yeah, follow the Instagrams. I'll put them in the bio, and make sure that you drink water because I sure as hell won't.
You really should, though.